Hello there, welcome to my first match predictions video. This was based off a comment that I got on a video that I uploaded recently. Someone said that they were enjoying the content and they think it would be good if I did some match prediction videos, so I thought, you know what, not a bad idea, might as well. So T-Bounds, thank you for that, suggestion. Cheers, thanks for watching, and yeah. Anyway, on with the predictions. I don't really have much to say before we get into it, so I think we'll start with the APAC region matches first, and then get into the NA region. But for APAC region, you know, I don't think there's going to be too many hot takes here. The first match, day one, match one, Chengdu Hunters versus Guangzhou Charge. I'm probably thinking it's going to be a 3-0 to the Guangzhou Charge. They really shouldn't have many issues putting away Chengdu Hunters, honestly. I think across the board, Guangzhou Charge just has the better players. They suit the meta a lot better. I believe Nero and Neptuno are going to be back in this weekend too, which is just going to make it even better for the Charge. So yeah, Hunters versus Charge, definitely for me a 3-0 for the Charge. Should be an easy clean sweep. Next match, match 2, Seoul Dynasty versus Shanghai Dragons. The way Seoul Dynasty's been looking recently, it should be an easy win for the Shanghai Dragons, honestly. Should be a relatively quick 3-0, I think. Another 3-0, this time going the way of the Shanghai Dragons versus Seoul Dynasty. Honestly, Dragons just look so good on every comp. I really can't see them dropping a map to Seoul Dynasty at the moment, who really just don't look into it. They don't look particularly good on anything at the moment, and Shanghai looking like some of the best in the world on all of these comps. Yeah, I don't think they're going to let up against Seoul at all. So yeah, 3-0, Shanghai. Next match, match 3 of the day 1 APAC region matches. Hangzhou Spark versus London Spitfire. As much as I want to say that it's probably going to be a 3-0 to the Spark, I think what's more likely going to happen is that London could pick up a map. I think I'm going to go full on 3-1 Andy in this one and say 3-1 to the Hangzhou Spark. I do think Spark could potentially take it 3-0, but at the same time, there's just always that tendency that London have to overperform that it makes me not want to be too confident in saying 3-0 to Spark. So I think it will be a 3-1. London, I can see them picking up a map. I can see them overperforming a little bit. I can probably even see this series going 3-2, but what I can't see is London winning overall. I think Spark are just so much better right now with QOQ and Architect and Pagion coming in. Apparently I'm pronouncing his name wrong, by the way. I don't know how to pronounce it, but apparently it's not pronounced Pagion, which is the way I've been saying it for the last year, so unfortunate. But I think Spark, with all the new additions they've made, they shouldn't have too difficult of a time putting London away. But London do have that tendency to overperform that makes me want to say they'll maybe at least get one map. I'm not too confident saying that it would be a 3-0 to Hangzhou. So yeah, 3-1 Hangzhou Spark. On to day 2 for the APAC region matches. First match of the day, Shanghai Dragons versus Hangzhou Spark. Honestly, this could go a multitude of ways, to be completely honest. I want to say Shanghai Dragons 3-1. I'm going to go 3-1 Andy again on this one, because I think Shanghai are a team that if they're playing at their best with the hero pools opening up, I feel like Shanghai are a team that should, in theory... Oh, whoops, sorry, I forgot to turn off notifications. Anyway, I think Shanghai should, in theory, be a team that is able to 3-0 the Hangzhou Spark. But again, it's just those new pieces for Spark. They look so much better with these new pieces, QOQ, Architect, Mika even. I don't feel fully confident that they wouldn't at least be able to take one map off of Shanghai. So I'm going to go full on 3-1 Andy and say 3-1 Shanghai Dragons. It could go 3-2. It could go 3-0. Honestly, this match could go a multitude of ways. I personally think most likely 3-1. Second match of the day, Chengdu Hunters versus Seoul Dynasty. Honestly, this might surprise you, but I'm going to say it's 3-2. This is going to most likely be a map 5 in my opinion. I think it's going to be a map 5 to the going the way of Seoul Dynasty. I think it's going to be a 3-2 to the Seoul Dynasty. I think this is going to be a very close match, and I don't think it's going to be a particularly entertaining one to watch. I think there's definitely potential that Seoul could power up now that there's a little bit more meaning behind the matches, with it getting closer and closer to playoff time for the Summer Showdown. So I think we could see Seoul powering up a bit and the match not being quite as close as I think it is. But I think Chengdu, even though I would rate them as the bottom team in APAC right now, I don't think they're a particularly bad team. And I think that, especially Seoul playing as they are now, if they go into this match thinking they're going to have an easier time because it's against Chengdu Hunters, I think they're going to be caught off guard a little bit. And I think I'm going to predict a 3-2 going the way of Seoul. I do think Seoul is going to win this overall. I think they are overall the better team at the moment. But I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people might think. And then final APAC match of the weekend, New York Excelsior versus Guangzhou Charge. For me, it's another match that I think is going to be incredibly close, but for me, Charge have just been so good recently. I think for me, it has to go the way of Charge. I think New York still have some issues that they need to sort out pretty desperately before they can, before I can confidently say that they would be able to beat a team like the Charge. I think it's going to be very close though. Probably a 3-2. Probably a 3-2 to the Charge. I think is the most accurate I can be with that, honestly. So yeah, 3-2 to the Guangzhou Charge. I think New York still have, where they are a good team, they still have some issues that they need to fix. And Charge, where they do have a tendency to drop maps to teams that they should be comfortably beating, I think they will overall come out as the winners in this matchup. So yeah, that's a Charge 3-2 to me. Alright, onto the NA region matches, which should be a little bit more interesting coming in. The NA region has seen very, apart from the 4 teams at the top, it's seemed very mixed recently. So, yeah, these should be some interesting matches coming in. Maybe not particularly the best ones to watch, especially on day 1, but at least later in the week, on day 2, there's some really interesting matches. But let's get the more boring ones out of the way. Florida Mayhem versus Houston Outlaws. It should be a pretty comfortable win for the Florida Mayhem, to be honest, but I can see Outlaws, especially if they're able to get away with playing the heroes they've been able to play this weekend. I can see them powering up a little bit and maybe taking a map from Mayhem, especially if Mayhem play the weird dive comp that they were playing on what was it? It was on Lijiang Tower versus LA Valiant. If they play that again, I can see Outlaws just sticking to what they know and maybe taking a map off them. So I'm going to predict a 3-1. It could very easily be a 3-0 to Florida Mayhem. I think a lot of people will probably predict that. But I don't know. I think Houston have been a lot better than they have been all season recently because of the heroes that are viable right now. And so I think because of that, they might just be able to take a map off of Florida. Maybe. So I'm going to predict 3-1. 3-1 Andy. Next up, Dallas Fuel versus Toronto. This should be... I can see this going 2 ways. I can see it going one of 2 ways. I think either Dallas will play without Decay again and they will get 3-0'd by Toronto. Or I think what is more likely is that Dallas are going to come in with Decay and with Onigod. This is my absolute hope, is they're going to come in with Decay and with Onigod and possibly 3-0. I can see both of those realities, and because of that, I'm going to say, I'm going to go with neither. I know this doesn't make much sense, but because I can see both of those realities happening, I want to kind of mix them together and say it's going to be 3-2 to Dallas. That's my prediction. I don't think it'll actually turn out like that. I think it will probably more than likely be a 3-0 to either team, depending on what Dallas does with their roster. But because of that, I can't make my mind up, so I'm just going to say 3-2 to Dallas, honestly. Match 4 of day 1, Vancouver Titans versus Boston Uprising. I've seen a lot of people predicting Vancouver for this because of their recent win against Dallas, but I think what you have to consider is, even though they are looking a lot more comfortable with each other as a team now that they've had a bit more time to mesh together, they're still not looking that great. They're still, I would still not feel fully comfortable putting them above teams like Toronto or anyone like that. So for me, this should be a fairly comfortable win for Boston. I can definitely see Vancouver picking up a map off of Boston. I can definitely see that happening. But I don't know if I would feel comfortable saying 3-1. I also wouldn't feel too comfortable saying 3-0 to Boston, though. So I think I'm going to go with 3-1. I think I'm going to go with 3-1 to Vancouver Titans for this one. Whoa, no. 3-1 to Boston Uprising. Sorry, 3-1 to Boston Uprising. I think Boston win this one. Ooh, that was close. Oh, sorry, that was match 3 as well. Match 4 is Washington Justice versus LA Gladiators. People have been really harsh on Gladiators recently. I honestly thought that a lot of their issues playing against Houston was that they, A, weren't expecting Houston to be quite as good as they were, which I don't think anyone was expecting. And then B, yeah, they were running some weird strats, but I think that's mostly due to sort of growing pains with Kevster coming in. They're not really sure what Kevster's limits are yet, so they want to test that, which I think is... yeah, granted, it's a little weird to do in a match setting. They could be doing that in scrims, but they didn't have long to scrim with Kevster before that, so obviously they're not going to know Kevster's limits just yet. I think the longer they play with Kevster, the better they're going to look, and yeah, honestly, I can just see them taking this 3-0 from Washington. I don't see Washington being able to get a map just purely based off of mechanical skill from each of the players. I really don't see Washington able to get a map. I should really mute this, shouldn't I? Sorry. But yeah, no, I think that's fairly easy 3-0 for Gladiators, even though they've been a little, you know, a little not that great recently, especially last week. It should still be a 3-0 against a team like Washington. Next up, Valiant versus Paris. I think this, honestly, if Paris keep playing the way they're playing, and if Valiant keep playing the way they're playing, this should be a relatively easy 3-0 for the Valiant. I really don't see Paris being able to pick up a map off of the Valiant right now with the way that Paris have been playing, unless the meta shifts dramatically with the hero pools expanding, which I don't think it will, and we see Paris being able to pull off dive consistently. This really should just be an easy 3-0 for Valiant. I mean, maybe if Paris... I doubt they will. I really doubt they will, but maybe if Paris just look introspectively a little bit and realize what the meta is and start playing, maybe soon an Xe would be really good for Paris. Maybe if they did that, they'd look better, but I still think they have the issue with their main tanks of neither of them are particularly great at Orisa, and because of that, I think Valiant, especially with their star DPS, but then on every other level as well, from the supports to their tanks, they should really be able to shut Paris down. And yeah, I think this should be a relatively easy 3-0 for Valiant if both teams keep playing the way they are. Next up, Atlanta Reign versus Vancouver Titans. This should be a relatively quick and easy one. Atlanta have a tendency to just absolutely pummel any teams that are below them in the standings. So yeah, Atlanta Reign, this should be a 3-0. Honestly, I don't see Vancouver Titans being able to pick up a map on Atlanta Reign right now. If you know my thoughts on Atlanta Reign already, I don't think they're a particularly great team. I think they're a pretty middling team at the moment. But when they do play against teams that are below them, they do have a tendency to absolutely stomp them. So I expect them to do the same thing here against Titans. Atlanta Reign 3-0. And finally, the one we've all been waiting for, Philadelphia Fusion versus San Francisco Shock. What do I think? I think it's going to be a 3-0 to the Shock. I don't think Philly are going to be able to pick up a map. And the reason why is because, yeah, they have fantastic players. Yeah, they have amazing mechanical skill on their team. But do they have the team play to bring it to a team like the Shock? Absolutely not. I don't think they do at all. I think... we know my thoughts on Philly by now. I think they're a phenomenal team of players. I think everyone on this team has amazing mechanical skill. I think they're some of the greatest players of all times in their specific roles. I mean, they've got players like Fury, players like Carpe. Hisu's come in and looked great on the hit scan. They've got a funny-ass show on the back line. Alarm has been arguably the best flex support this season. And then Sado has really built himself up on main tank, arguably a top 5 main tank at the moment. So... what gives with this team? Why am I saying they're going to get 3-0'd by Shock? They're just not good enough in terms of team play. I really think they're just not good enough in terms of their team play. They make far too many mistakes consistently. They don't look that amazing as a coordinated team. They're definitely better than anyone that I would put below them in the standings as far as coordination goes. But then when you look at those top 3 in NA, you look at teams like Florida Mayhem and Valiant and Shock right now, the level of coordination that these guys are pulling off just absolutely beats Philly out of the water. It's insane how bad Philly are compared to these top 3 teams. And when I say bad, I don't mean bad as a league standard. I just mean bad compared to these top 3 teams. They are really not good enough. And as far as the Shock goes, it's the Shock. I mean, come on, they're ridiculous. They have a tendency of just absolutely pummeling anyone that they come across right now. Even Paris, who I think going into last week was more of was probably a top 5 team in NA. There were slight concerns about them, but people didn't think they would perform quite that badly against Shock. And it's also to do with the fact that Shock are just that good. They can really pick out the issues on teams. They can really pick out the weaknesses, and they can just actively go out of their way to sort of force even more weaknesses out of those weaknesses. I don't know how to explain it. The Shock are just so good at acting on an enemy team's weaknesses and then forcing their way through them using team play, but then on top of that using their clutch factor because they have such a stacked roster as well. I don't think Philly have a chance against Shock, honestly. They could prove me wrong, but as far as I'm concerned, this should be a really easy 3-0 to the Shock. Cheers for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed. There's more coming up. I swear I will get these VOD reviews done eventually. This weekend, probably. This weekend, either Friday... I know that's not the weekend. Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I promise I will stream and I will get these VOD reviews done that I want to do. So be ready for those. Follow me on Twitch if you want to see those. They will be streamed. I'll go through as many maps as I can, as many matches as I can. I promise I will get them done eventually. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.